the league putting all the pressure on us players to make moves. We've made moves. We're waiting on you guys to respond. And at the end of the day, like, I think they're waiting for us players to crack. I'm telling you, we are unified as it gets right now. And like, we don't have a season that says a lot more about the WNBA league than us, because we're ready. Like, we are all training. We are all playing. We are ready to go. But we are not going to play for...
Hold on for a second, because what just unfolded around Caitlin Clark didn't feel normal at all. This wasn't something you could scroll past. Not one of those slow stories that builds over days. No, this hit fast. Out of nowhere. Confusing. And the word people suddenly started throwing around. Resigns. At first, nobody believed it. It felt like just another viral moment. Another clip taken out of context. Another headline trying to grab attention. Because honestly, why would Caitlin Clark step away right now? Everything was finally coming together. The Indiana Fever were gaining momentum. The spotlight was fully on her. The timing just didn't add up. But then things started to shift. More clips started showing up. More reactions. More noise. And suddenly, it wasn't just one name anymore. It became three. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull. All being mentioned together. All tied to the same moment. And that's when it stopped feeling random. Fans immediately started asking questions. What just happened? Is this real? Why are all three involved? Is something going on behind the scenes with the Indiana Fever? Because when multiple players are suddenly linked to one unexpected situation, it doesn't feel like a coincidence. It feels planned. Like something bigger is happening that we're not fully seeing yet. At first, there was no clear answer. No official statement. Just small pieces everywhere. Short clips spreading across social media. People watching the same few seconds again and again, trying to notice something others didn't. And the more you looked at it, the more strange it felt. Something about the moment just didn't sit right. The tone felt off. The timing felt off. Even the reactions didn't look natural. It was like everyone was seeing the same thing, but no one could fully explain it. And that's when the speculation really took off. Because if this wasn't just a normal update, then what was it? Inside the Indiana Fever, something had been building for a while. Not loudly, not publicly, but quietly, in the background. Because when a player like Caitlin Clark joins a team, it changes everything. The way the team plays changes. The speed changes. The expectations rise instantly. And most importantly, the balance inside the locker room shifts. And that kind of shift doesn't always happen smoothly. From the outside, everything looked fine. Practices looked good. Chemistry seemed strong. Media coverage stayed positive. It all looked under control. But behind that surface, things were moving. Roles were changing. Players were adjusting. Voices inside the team were shifting. Decisions were being made. And not everyone was experiencing those changes the same way. Because when one player becomes the center of everything, everything else has to adjust around them.
It would be hard for the Indiana Fever fans to part ways with Sophie Cunningham. It absolutely would be devastating. We want Tres Leches back together. We want the blonde bomber, Sophie Cunningham, back. Here it says, while the 29-year-old veteran only spent the 2025 season with the Fever and missed a solid chunk of games with an injury, she did many things to endear herself to Indiana's loyal fan base. Perhaps the two most important were being a spark plug and serving as star guard Caitlin Clark's enforcer, okay? We love Sophie Cunningham for stepping in during that Connecticut Sun ambush attack that was taking place on Caitlin Clark. Make no mistake about that. Here it says it earned her notoriety from the women's basketball community and admiration from Fever fans, Caitlin Clark fans. However, the harsh reality is that the WNBA is a business, and as much as everybody wants Cunningham back in Indianapolis, that Fever are between a rock and a hard place right now. Okay? Here, why the Fever protecting Sophie Cunningham doesn't make sense. The rules for the upcoming WNBA expansion draft for the Toronto Temple and Portland Fire were revealed March 25th. As expected, teams will be allowed to protect 5 players. The first 4 players are obvious for Indiana: Caitlin Clark, Leah Boston, Lexi Hall, and Kelsey Mitchell. Most agree that the 5th option should be...
Now here's the part that really matters. When a player like Caitlin Clark becomes the center of everything, everyone else has to move around that energy. Some players adjust right away. Some need time. And some just don't find their place in it. That's where things started to get uncomfortable. Not loud, not obvious, but definitely real. Because behind closed doors, inside that Indiana Fever locker room, serious conversations were happening. Conversations about direction, about who leads, about how this team is actually going to function when the season begins. And according to people close to the situation, those talks didn't stay soft for long. They became sharper, more direct, more clear. Because now, it wasn't just about potential anymore. Now it was about expectations. And when expectations go up, pressure follows right behind. That's when Caitlin Clark stepped into that moment. Not with drama. Not with. But with clarity. Because when you're the centerpiece, what you say matters. People listen. And from what insiders are hinting at, her input didn't just stay as words. It started shaping decisions. Not all at once, but step by step. And slowly, the direction of the team started to feel locked in. And once that direction is locked, everything else begins to shift around it. Roles start changing, minutes get adjusted, responsibilities move. And sometimes, people get affected too. That's where Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull come into focus. Because suddenly, their spots didn't feel as secure as before. Not because they failed. Not because of one bad game. But because the system itself was evolving. And when a system changes, one thing becomes critical: fit. If you fit perfectly, you stay. If not, things get complicated. Very quickly. And that's when this whole situation started to make more sense. Because if something shifted internally, then this wasn't random at all. It was connected. And if it was connected, then maybe that word, resigns, didn't mean what people thought at first. Because in moments like this, words travel faster than truth. By the time the real context shows up, the story has already taken off. And that's exactly what happened here. People weren't reacting to confirmed facts anymore. They were reacting to what they thought it meant. And that's where things get messy. Because one short clip can be interpreted in 10 different ways. One moment can create 10 different stories. And in a situation like this, that's all it takes. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever didn't say a word. No confirmation. No denial. Just silence. And instead of calming things down, that silence made everything even louder.
Since there are over 100 veterans who will become free agents, this limits their options, okay? Also note is that the Fever can only give one core designation to a veteran this offseason and will almost certainly use that on Kelsey Mitchell. Therefore, if one of the two expansion teams were to use their pick on Cunningham, and thus give her the veteran supermax contract, as per the rules, she'll surely take that because she won't be able to get that much money from the Fever or any other team in free agency. And like I said, if Sophie Cunningham gets picked by another team in the expansion draft and they're giving her a supermax, the Indiana Fever, you were never going to give her that on the open market anyway, so you would lose her regardless. If you keep Sophie Cunningham, not core her, but if you protect her in the expansion draft, she still hits the market as a free agent. And if someone offers her a max contract, you can't match it anyway. You got to let her go. So there's no point in you losing a Michaela Timpson if something like that could happen. And the point is, I don't think neither one of these teams are going to pick Sophie Cunningham and give her a max contract to be there. So I think the Indiana Fever will be fine there, and she'll just be hitting the market as an unrestricted free agent, and the Indiana Fever would have the same opportunity to retain her. Okay?
And when answers don't come, people start creating their own. That's exactly what happened here. Some fans were convinced this was a big internal move inside the Indiana Fever. Others thought it was all just a misunderstanding. And then there were those who believed, this is something much bigger that hasn't fully come out yet. And that uncertainty, that's what kept this story alive. Because now, everyone is watching, waiting, trying to connect the dots and understand what this actually means. Because if Caitlin Clark really made a move this early, then this isn't just a random moment. It's a signal about where this team is headed. About who's in control. About what this version of the Indiana Fever is going to look like moving forward. And if Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull are part of that shift, then their roles, their future, everything becomes part of the same story. Because once a team commits to a direction, there are only two outcomes. You either fit into it, or you get left behind by it. And that's why this moment feels so important. Because this isn't just about one announcement. It's about what comes next. If this situation keeps building, we could see more changes, more adjustments, maybe even more surprises that nobody saw coming. Because this is how big shifts usually begin. Quiet, confusing, unclear, until one day, everything makes sense. But by that point, the impact has already started. And right now, it feels like we're right there in that moment. Something has clearly begun, but it hasn't fully revealed itself yet. Because whatever this turns into, one thing is already certain. It's changed the conversation. And once the conversation changes, everything else follows. In a league where attention is everything, moments like this don't just disappear. They grow. They spread. And they come back even stronger. So now, everything comes down to one simple question. What happens next? Because whatever that answer is, it's going to matter a lot more than people expect. If this really is the start of something bigger, then this moment, this sudden shift, this unexpected twist, this is only the beginning.